Thanks, Ken. I'd just like to start by thanking all the presenters that have been in here so far today. Somewhere, someone needs help. He may be short of breath, she may have chest pain, they may have been hit by a car or a flu or someone they thought they knew, but somewhere someone needs help, and help is on the way. My name is Ron Bowles. I work here at Justice Institute of British Columbia, and over the last 25 years, I've been truly blessed to work with some amazing people, with practitioners and learners from community, health, social justice, emergency, and public safety fields. These are unique, high-risk disciplines that have a high consequence of error. And that puts an onus on us as educators to make sure that when our graduates leave here, they're not just skilled and knowledgeable. They've become the kind of people that can do real things in the real world. We pride ourselves on programs that are applied, experiential, and interactive. And it's that last word, interactive, that I want to explore a little bit through the metaphor of throwing rocks in the river. A long time ago, I was a paramedic, and I was taught to ask the question, what's really going on here? Now, as an academic and as a curriculum theorist, I've added a few more questions. What knowledge matters the most? Who gets to decide and why? Traditionally, we think of curriculum as the things we need to develop and deliver programs, goals, objectives, study guides, textbooks. But educational theorist William Piner suggested that we move away from our own perspective and take a look at curriculum through the eyes of our learners. He went and explored the roots of the term curriculum and found the concept of career, to run a course, to take a journey. And he suggested that curriculum is the lived experience of our learners. And that raises the question, what does learning look like as a journey? For many of our learners, the journey is like coming across a wide, fast-running river. Their goal, the ability to do real things in the real world, is uphill, upstream on the far side of the river. And it's our job as educators to throw rocks in the river, to create pathways to help them reach their goals. Sometimes the pathways we create are simple and straight, elegant in their simplicity, that take learners directly where they need to go. Other times we over-engineer things and we create multiple pathways that reach a variety of different goals. Sometimes we're not intending to take them across the river. Our goal is to take them into the river and let them finish the journey on their own. And all too often, we throw rocks haphazardly in the river, leaving no clear path for our learners to follow. Each of these rocks is a learning activity, reading a book, acting in a role play, practicing a procedure or a skill. And each of these activities involves a number of different interactions. And interaction is an interesting term. It's a term we use a lot in this wired, wireless, and networked world that we live in. It conjures up images of multiple pathways through the content, of chasing ideas and links down a rabbit hole, of social media and online discussions. But in an educational sense, interaction can be a much richer term. Another educational theorist, Dr. Michael Moore, looking at distance education, identified 3 types of learning interaction. He said the learners can interact with the content, they can interact with their teachers, we'd more likely say facilitators today, and they can interact with each other. And that was the model I started with when I looked at the interactions in our programs. Over the last 40 years, we've created a number of pathways for our learners using a variety of emerging and innovative technologies. And the growth and explosion in educational technologies, particularly interactive technologies, things like broadband, internet, multimedia, and now mobile and wireless communications, have really opened up the range of possibilities for us. We have a tremendous number of rocks that we can use. We can create a variety of different paths. And that raises the question, how do we do this in a purposeful way, a meaningful way, a way that helps our learners on their journey and helps them get where they need to go? About 10 years ago, I started an action research project. I brought together the most experienced educators I knew, and we sat down in a room and spent an afternoon plastering a wall in yellow sticky notes. And I'm known for my sticky notes. And each one of those sticky notes was a learning activity. And after we'd covered the wall, we sat down and I asked a few questions. I said, what's really going on here? When you look at those interactions, when you look at those activities, what's happening? What are the learners doing? Who and what are they interacting with? More importantly, what do you think the outcome of this activity will be? How far in the river would it take them? What emerged were 6 common learning activities for us. We always start with content. One of the first things we do is either find or create content that we can give to our learners, and we give them lots of content. We give them articles, we give them journals, we give them manuals, textbooks. We send them to websites, blogs, to podcasts, to videos. We ask them to watch documentaries and movies. We create more content to guide them in this. We give them goals, objectives, reading lists, study guides. And in the guides of conversation, we even give them more content. We send them emails, announcements, discussion boards. We supplement this with activities designed to have the learners engage with the content in meaningful ways. We use things like advanced organizers and worksheets and reflective questions that both structure the learning and highlight the key ideas and the key things in there. We use things like assignments, quizzes, tests to check their developing understanding. And we use larger assignments to get them to relate the ideas that they're encountering to real-world problems and real-world issues. As instructors and facilitators, our interactions are fundamentally different. They're both reciprocal and they're adaptive. As instructors, we're the sage on the stage. We're the experts who've been there and done that. We're really good at getting content and packaging it in innovative ways and guiding our learners through that. At a deeper level, as facilitators, we work alongside the learners. We probe, we question, we reframe ideas and concepts. We're always working to narrow the gap between where they are and where we need them to go. We use collaborative and peer-based activities to encourage deeper participation. We put them in pairs and groups with shared tasks, shared goals, and these are designed to get them to engage more fully and more often with the ideas. We create simulation environments where they can practice doing real things. Case studies, drills, simulations, large-scale exercises are all designed to allow the learners to take on realistic roles, but in a controlled and a predictable, a safe environment. And then finally, we take them into the real world, where they can do real things with guidance and coaching and mentorship from experienced practitioners. Activities like apprenticeships, practicum placements, preceptorships, residencies, these are the hallmarks of many applied and professional disciplines. More recently, we have work-integrated learning activities such as job shadows and co-ops and internships that are opening the door for students from a variety of disciplines to bring the real world into their education. Each of these activities, each of these interactions is a rock that we can throw. Each one of them fosters a different type of learning, achieves a different type of learning outcome, and takes our learners to a different place in the river. Content interactions are the heart of all education. Learning is always learning about something. And whether it's a novice learner who's laying down the foundational skills and knowledge that will support them through their career, or it's field personnel taking upgrade training on new ideas, new concepts, new ways of doing things, or whether it's seasoned and experienced practitioners that are engaged in public or personal and professional development like we are here today. Engaging with content, running up against new ideas and new concepts and new ways of doing things is what drives the change that learning is all about. Yet these are the rocks that are closest to the shore. They're the easiest for us to throw. And if we leave our learners here, the transition to the real world is up to them, and we're leaving them to sink or swim on their own. Interactions with peers and instructors are about adding context and adding meaning. Together, they sift and they sort through their ideas. They figure out what's really important, what do I really need to know in all of this, and how do I apply this to my world, to my context. Together, these interactions form the foundation of traditional education, which has as its goal graduates who are skilled and knowledgeable and ready to start their transition into real-world practice. But sometimes being skilled and knowledgeable isn't enough. Sometimes we really do need to take our learners to the far shore. And that's where we use interactions with simulation in the real world. These are the activities that are about doing things, about bringing learning inside of us. This is where we figure out what this means to me. How will I do this? And what do I yet need to do to become somebody that can do real things in the real world? If the near side of the river is about skills and knowledge, the far side of the river is about transformation and change. Now, one of the challenges with metaphors and models like this is that they bring some baggage along with them. And this metaphor can imply that our goal is always to reach the far shore, that this is always about doing real things in the real world. But there are lots of times when our goal is to take learners into the river but not across it, that they make that transition into field practice with their peers and their employers. Other times we create introductory and orientation programs that aren't about doing real things. They're about establishing a broad, solid foundation for future growth and future success. And even these examples imply that learning is always building from the near shore to the far, from content to application, from simple to complex. But there are lots of really effective learning strategies that start in the real world. Problem and case-based learning starts with a scenario that the learners can't yet solve. Together, they tear the case apart. They look at what they know, what they don't know, and what are the gaps that they have to fill yet before they can solve the problem. And then together they come back to the near side, into the content, to develop the skills and the knowledge and the judgment they need to work their way back and solve the problem. Models like this aren't meant to be predictive. This isn't about saying your goal should be the far shore, or that you have to use these kinds of rocks or build these kinds of pathways. These are models, they're tools, lenses, metaphors that allow us to look at our work and look at our world and see different things. And this metaphor allows us to ask some really important questions. What is the goal of my program? What is the goal of the teaching that I'm doing? Where in the river do I want my learners to get to? Do they need to get to? What are the options that are available to me? What rocks can I use and what pathways can I create that will help them on their journey? Having said that, the value in this metaphor is its emphasis on the far side of the river. As educators, it's easy for us to focus in on content and on instruction. It's where we live, it's what we know, it's what we're really good at. But we have to ask ourselves what's really going on here. Education is less about skills and knowledge than it is about change and transformation. And change and transformation occurs on the far side of the river. We've spent the day listening to stories that show how powerful the real world is in creating change in us. And it's the interactions with peers, with practice, with the real world that change our learners, that change what they know, that change what they can do, that changes the way they think and the way they make decisions, that changes, enriches the values and beliefs they have as they enter new communities of practice. It's on the far side of the river that they transform and become the kind of people that can do real things in the real world. Sometimes being skilled and knowledgeable isn't enough, because somewhere someone needs help, and help is on the way. Thank you.